Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 1 of the Tier 2 SSRI GT3 series here at the Nurburgring GP track. So today is going to be myself, Andy King, commentating. It's a little bit of a different one. Most of you probably haven't seen me commentate solo for a while, so what I want to try and see today is a lot of interaction in the chat. Try and tell me who you're supporting, who you're watching, whether you think they're going to finish, and we'll hopefully have a good evening. Today's race consists of a 20-minute qualifier, so fastest lap will obviously start on pole, and then we'll then go into a 75-minute race, and that 75-minute race is going to consist of no mandatory tyres on the pit stop and no fixed fuel time. So expect to see quite a variety of strategy that's sort of going on throughout this race. We've got a mixture of drivers in today's race because we've got two classes. We've got our silver class and our AM class, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they stack up against each other. The Nurburgring is certainly one of the tracks where it's difficult to overtake, I think, especially in the first sector, and I'd expect the first couple of laps to be bumper to bumper, so you guys can get quite a lot of racing action on today. It's a dry race, so hopefully that means it will be quite fast times during qualifying. We've got an optimum track, and I think hopefully we're all going to have a fun time. So we're just going to skip into a track guide, and I'll try and walk you through what a good lap might look like. So we come around the final corner now. We've got the pit lane on the right hand side, and you'll be making your way down towards turn 1, absolutely flat out here, pedal to the metal, or petal as I just said. As you come into turn 1, you'll brake just after the 100-meter board, sticking to the left as far as you can and hugging the apex. You can see where that dark bit of tarmac is. You want to try and hit that cone. You'll be then back out on the full throttle, but you want to veer out to the right a little bit here to open the corner up for this double left-hander. It's very slippery through here, so expect to see a lot of cars getting a bit of oversteer as you come into this left-hander. And then here, there's a bit of tarmac on the left. You want to brake just after that and trail brake, getting both wheels up onto that left-hand side curb. And in some cars, you can go full throttle. This next corner, you want to be over the curb on the inside, and then you can run out wide, but not too wide. You might see a couple of our drivers get some track limit violations. As we head down in towards the mid-sector, hard on the brakes here as the tarmac starts on the right, lift off and then full throttle through this corner, being very careful not to run wide, and then into the hairpin as you head towards Schumacher. So as you head down towards the next straight which leads towards Schumacher, let me get that right. So this bit's the hairpin. So hard on the brakes on the left here, and you want to sort of late apex this one and get yourself a nice exit coming out of here as you head up towards the hill. And this one going up the hill, this is Schumacher, this can be particularly difficult. So there's a curb on the right hand side, you want to get two wheels up on that curb just to swing it into the left-hander, but if you get that wrong you can end up in the sand or the gravel. And then flat out up the hill, you'll see a bit of a sign on the right hand side. You might be a bit hard to see it, there it is, just on the brakes there, and up on the green stuff on the left hand side, using all of the exit on the track. And this particular corner, a little bit like turn 2, very slippery through here, so you want to make sure you're maximising your exit speed, and then flat out as we head down towards the chicane, going into the final sort of last two corners. Very tricky to get this right here. What I'd probably say is during qualifying, you might see some people stack it here. So hard on the brakes here, and you want to flick it in, but you want to avoid the bits of sausage curb or concrete as you go through the chicane. You can use all the exit here right up onto that curb, and then into the final corner, brake late, keep it nice and tight to the apex, and back out on the throttle. Again, a very slippery corner, and a lot of time can be lost there, especially in certain cars where it will start to bog on the exit or get sideways and then across the line. So in terms of lap times today, I'd expect to see people around the 154, 155 mark. Potentially a few drivers might even go a little bit quicker once we get into qualifying. Some of the pros do absolutely crazy times. They're probably in the 152s perhaps, maybe even a little bit quicker. In Tier 1 last week, we were seeing people into the 53. So if anyone breaks into the 53s here, that is an exceptionally fast lap time. And there is a cheeky bird's eye view of the Nurburgring GP track, which is looks very quiet. Where's the audience at? We need more people. If you're in the stream, then who are you supporting today? Who are you cheering on? Who are you expecting to take the win? And any predictions? So the Nurburgring GP track, I think, is a particularly... I find it a challenging track, I'll be honest. It's one of those tracks where it's difficult to overtake. It's very slippery. It can be a tyre killer at times, and I think it's really important for these drivers to manage their tyres, especially with the sort of open pit stop strategy that they've got. So drivers today have 75 minutes, and they can either take a full pit stop and they can change tyres and put whatever amount of fuel they need in, or as we saw in Tier 1, where some drivers went right to the end of the stint, took full fuel at the start, and did a shorter pit stop for about 4 or 5 seconds, saved themselves the 25 second, but naturally you risk sort of being a bit slower at the start because you've got a higher fuel load, and you've also got to take your tyres right to the end, so managing those tyres becomes a little bit challenging. It'd be really interesting today to see how many of our drivers decide to go for the full pit stop or do what we call in racing terms a splash and dash. It's interesting which one works and which ones doesn't. I believe the winner of Tier 1 did not do a splash and dash. However, other drivers in the top 3 or 4 did. So it'd be really interesting. NCO Nico in the stream says Steve in the top 10. Steve all in caps. So yeah, maybe. Is that top 10 in class, or is that top 10 overall though? That's the question. And you can see a nice view down the pit straight there. You can see the camber on the inside, and there's that cone that you want to try and hit as you come into the apex. But what you'll probably find in the first lap is that people will run a little bit wide just to try and avoid the chaos. You go sort of flat out into that corner. It's a really heavy braking zone, so drivers in this race are going to have to be super aware that there's a bit of a Constantina effect where actually you're not quite as far away from the driver in front as you might think you are. So just something for them to bear in mind. We're going to see a variety of different cars out on track as well, which I think is interesting. The LFM BOP is applied, so SSRI guys have taken the LFM BOP and applied it to this race, so it helps balance the performance of the cars across each track, which will hopefully bring some of the cars that might struggle around here into contention a little bit more. Some of the cars that are a little bit more overpowered around this track help sort of balance the rules, balance the books, if you will. So this is round 1. Next week, well, not next week, 2 weeks from now, Tier 2 will head towards Barcelona. Another pretty challenging track, and I think the drivers here are going to want to make sure that they sort of get the best start that they possibly can for SSRI Season 7. I hope that's 7. Chris is probably cringing in my ear if it's not 7. It is 7. There we go. Cool. Perfect. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting race for sure. I think we've got 75 minutes. It's going to be super tight, super close, lots of fighting, really difficult to overtake. So you might start seeing people do a few dive bombs. What would be really interesting to see is if people start to box early or whether they box late. What's the sort of strategy? But any minute now, we're going to get underway with qualifying. So these drivers will have 20 minutes to put in their best lap time. And there we go. So we're just on the out lap now. We're on board with Mark Conway in the 137 BMW, who's going to start us off in the silver class. So we'll let these guys do their out lap, warm their tyres up, and hopefully see some fast lap times. Like I say, anything in the 154s is probably a good time around here. It's pretty hot. It's a 32-degree track and 24-degree ambient. There's no wind. There's very little prediction of any rain, so it looks like we're in for a dry race. So if anybody wondering, who may be new to SSRI or sim racing or Assetto Corsa competition, why some drivers have got a red number board. The red represents the class in this instance, so the red cars are our amateur drivers and the cars that are in white are our silver drivers. Nice on board from Mark here as he comes up the hill towards Schumacher. Let's see how much of that curb on the right he takes. Yeah, 2 wheels on the curb. You can see him. That was nice and stable there actually through there. I thought the Beamer might be a little bit twitchy. I was quite impressed with how planted that was. So there's a prediction in the chat for Steve to be top 10. Be interested to see where he qualifies. Qualifying is super important around here because of how difficult it is to overtake. Zoltan in the Lexus, so that's brave. He's one-man band in the Lexus by the looks of it. A lot of drivers in the Ferrari, BMWs, Porsches, as you'd probably expect, the McLarens, but the Lexus is a wild card. Right, so we're going to be on board with Mark as he starts his first flying lap. Nice exit there onto the back straight, going down towards turn 1, and it's just flat out through here. And we're going to see the marker boards on the left just before he gets hard on the brakes. See if he hits that inside apex. He does. Nice turn 1. So this sector is really, really tricky. On the power too early, and it's just so slippery. But it's nice and stable there as we go into turn 3. Up on the curb as well from Mark. Beautiful sector 1. Oh, big slide there on the exit, but did well to catch that. A little bit wider there, and you're liable for track limits, and I'm suspecting that we'll see a few drivers run wide there and potentially get some track warnings. 3 track warnings is the limit, 1 more, and yeah, you're getting a drive-through penalty, I'm afraid. Right, we're going to come down towards the hairpin now. This looks like a solid effort so far from Mark. Hard on the anchors. Bit of a trail brake into the corner, and then when you can get back on the power, back on the throttle, let it probably oversteer a little bit if needs be, and then up the hill onto the curb. This is where it's do or die here. And he clips a little bit of the sand there, but didn't look like he lost too much time. This is going to be a solid outlap for sure, and will definitely set the benchmark for the rest of the field to try and compete with. This hairpin, this chicane that we come up to here is one of the areas that you'll see people start to get frustrated with in qualifying, as they brake a touch too late, and all of a sudden you've just lost all the time that you've gained through the lap. Let's see how Mark gets on. Nice to the first bit, nice to the second bit, up onto the curb, and there is a flying lap from Mark Conway as we go into the final corner. He's very close to that inside barrier, using all of the track. First flying lap. 156.2 for Mr. Conway, puts him currently on pole, and that is the benchmark for the rest of the drivers to try and compete with. The 213 McLaren goes 0.3 off. Oh, and Galley Mini 0.052 off. That is very, very close to pole, but Mark Conway still currently holds on. Galley Mini is currently our fastest amateur driver, and it looks like he's competing with some of the silver drivers at the minute, so that is a good lap time from him. Tubey has just taken pole with a 55.3, as we can see Arjen van der Linden there in the 14 BMW coming out of the first sector. That's a quite nice livery. So anybody wondering, the THRC isn't some weird acronym that stands for something strange. It stands for Try Hard Racing, and he certainly is try hard at the minute to try and get himself up the standings a little bit closer to the top. He's currently down in P11, but we've still got 15 minutes to go. There's quite a lot of time for drivers to improve. The track will start to bed in, and yeah, we'll see times improve, I suspect, no doubt, from probably most drivers at this point. We've still got the 613 car in the pits. I'm not sure what's happened there. I think he's either waiting for the track to sort of settle down a little bit, or I don't know, he's gone for a wee, who knows. from LSM Racing. So hopefully he gets himself out on track first, and he's not got a he's not got a technical issue or anything like that. But yeah, still currently in the pit lane. And this is a great shot of the chicane, the M&M's car from the 213 Brint as he comes onto the back straight. Let's see if he improves on his time. He does. He jumps up to P6. That's a great effort. Put himself up to a 55.89. We've just had a new pole. So the 42 car from Ambrosi goes P1 with a 155 flat. Paolo takes first and parks it up on the side. I wonder if he's just going to go back to the pits, take a bit more fuel and get himself back out on track. Some of these drivers will be looking to retaliate. We're on board with Matt Pryor at the minute from Wyvern Racing in the Ford Mustang. Ford, one of the newer cars to ACC. Pretty tough to drive, I will be honest. It's very fast. It has crazy acceleration, but it can be a little bit slippery through some of the bends. So one to watch out for there, but it's very difficult to overtake. There's a Ferrari there in the background getting out of his way because he knows that he's on a hot lap. Be interesting to see where Matt gets after this lap. He's currently 0.2 up on his delta. He's only 5/10 away from pole, so let's see if we can find anything else in the last sector. Through the chicane go. Still 0.4, he's 0.4 up now into the final corner. Massive acceleration on the Mustang. Where is this going to put Matt? P2, 1/10 off pole. That's a great effort from our AM driver. Currently puts him P1 in class. So well done to Matt. Frans van der Linden at the moment, currently 9/10 off pole, which is P14 overall at the moment, but he's coming into the final corner for Sim Racing Holland. He's currently 0.3 up. Let's see if he can hold that into the last corner as he comes across the start-finish line. And he goes 13th, so he's now 7/10 off pole, so a little bit quicker, but still a little bit of work to do there for Frans van der Linden to try and stretch the legs of that McLaren. We've got a lot of McLarens in a row there, from P12 all the way down to P11 now, all the way down to P16. Alright, we're on board with Carl Van Horn, who is our half second up for Astro Racing Team. And again, coming into the chicane, we seem to catch people right as they come through the chicane now, and hopefully see him improve. He's currently P16, 1 second off pole. Let's see what magic he can do here. As we go across the line, he goes up to P8, so he found 6/10. Great lap there from Carl, and he's going to continue out on track and try and get a bit more time. Zolder in the Lexus is currently 4/10 off pole. He's the only man in the Lexus in this tier, so it's going to be you know what, the Lexus is a brave choice, but the Lexus is also rapid, so if you're stuck behind it, you are going to struggle to overtake it, especially around here. So actually, if you can extract the pace from it, it might be a really smart move. So this could be a phenomenal lap. Looks like it's really quick. We're going to come across the start finish line now, and he takes pole by 0.012. Oh, and Matt Pryor has just gone. Is it Matt Pryor? It is Matt, isn't it? Matt Pryor has just gone pole with a 154.9 in our AM class. So not only is he pole in class, he's pole overall at the moment. But Mark Conway is hoping to challenge that as he comes into the last corner. He's 0.3 up at the moment, so let's see where Mark can place this BMW. And Mark now takes pole. This is so tight at the top, isn't it? 0.032. And Tons now takes pole, so Henry now onto pole with a 54.6. The track is starting to get spicy. So remember earlier I was talking about the track sort of bedding in? I think that's what's starting to happen now, and you can see between P1 and P13 is only a second, and then if you go down to P17 with Jacco Van Eck, who we're on board with at the minute, it's 1.1 seconds. In fact, P17 and P16 have got exactly the same lap time and have P14 and P15, which is really spicy, and it shows just how close this racing is. Let's see what Jacko can do as he goes into the chicane. A bit of a... Oh no, he's run wide there through the final corner. That corner is pretty challenging to get right. You need to get the exit through the chicane correct, and if you don't get that right, you kind of run deep. Look at that Lexus. So Zoltan currently 0.2 up as he goes into the chicane. That was a full send through the chicane, hard on the brakes, into the final corner. Maximise that exit, don't run too wide and potentially risk the whole lap. That looks like a nice exit. And this might be pole, let's see. Oh, it's not pole. It's 0.03 off for Zoltan. That's so unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, you can't get much closer. The top three are settled by less than 1/10 of a second. And that's going to make for some spicy racing, I think, if it stays that way. But Zoltan into the pits, and we're now on board with Mr. Hop for Team DG in the Lamborghini. You don't see many Lamborghinis about anymore, really. They've you see the odd one, but they're not as popular as they certainly used to be. But Frank doesn't seem to care. He's going to represent Lamborghini in this series and see what he can do. So Frank coming in towards the chicane as well. What a big moment there through the chicane, and he's run really wide, and he's not going to quite stop that before the wall, I don't think. Oh, he did actually. So yeah, this is what I was saying earlier, is it's just so difficult to get that final chicane right. Right, Jacko Van Eyck, what can this man do for Hornet Motorsports in the McLaren? He's 0.1 up on his delta at the minute, but given how close that is, that could jump him a couple of spots. Into the chicane we go, uses all the curb there. I'm surprised that didn't send him into outer space, to be honest. Through the final corner. Will we see an improvement? Across the line, jumps up to P11 with a 0.2 of an improvement there for Jacko Van Eyck. That's it's a good lap. It's a good lap, 8/10 off pole. And the top 16 are split between 1 second. So if you're in the chat, do you think Tont is going to continue to hold on to pole, or do you think anybody might challenge him? We've got 7 minutes left, so let me know what your predictions are. I'm not sure what the reward is if you get it correct. Maybe a pretend gold star. I don't know. I'll let Chris think of something. Alright, Gallimini coming around now. A AM driver in the Ferrari, currently P7, but that is P3 in class, so that's a good qualifying so far from Fabio. He's currently 0.2 of a second up, so that will jump him 1 spot, but he's going to come into the chicane. The Ferrari's not too bad around the chicane, in fairness, so that looked fairly clean. Again, into that final corner, onto the power. Let's see where Fabio Gallimini finishes. Jumps 1 spot, so yeah, he did find the 0.2. Up to P6, gets himself ahead of Tubi in the 33 Ferrari. Bit of grass there onto the entry of turn 1, but that seemed to actually help rotate the car. Right, we're on board with David Gallant now, another Mustang driver, currently down into P25, so he'll be looking to make a bit of time up. And you know what, I've got to respect anybody that drives a Mustang, because I really struggle in it. And I don't know why. It must just be a driving style thing. It's an incredibly fast car. But it's very difficult to extract the time out. A little bit deep there into the corner there, but he might make it up through this last sector and find himself jumping up a couple of spots. He only needs to find just over a 1/10.5 to jump up 1 more spot, and that'll be another spot in class for him. So that's a positive. So David was last season's rookie winner as well, so be hoping to bring some sort of championship win back for him this season as well. 2 for 2 would be nice as he comes across the start-finish line. Let's see where David ends up. He jumps to P23, so finds a little bit more time and jumps up another couple of spots in class. So that's a good effort from David. So Mitch is currently 0.7 up, which is exactly what he is off P1 at the moment. So this final corner is going to be do or die. That looked a little bit twitchy, but it might not have been as he comes across the start-finish line. And he takes P3 with the exact same time as P2, which is probably very frustrating for him. So he's going to want to go again and try and beat that time, because 0.035 off P1 is frustrating. 0.035 and having that as exactly the same lap time as P2 is even more frustrating. So he's going to want to go again with that one, but that puts him P1 in class in front of Pryor in the Mustang, who is only 0.085 off pole, so there's 0.05 between them, which is crazy close, crazy close. These are some strong lap times that we're seeing at the moment. Oh, and Mitch pulls over. Maybe he's going to go back, take a bit more fuel, and come out and try for the last 4 minutes to see what Magic Mitch can do there. Mr. Geens currently down into P22. He's in one of these positions at the minute where half a second, a couple of tenths, jumps you so many spots because the grid is so tight that actually you've just got to send it and just see what happens, I think, at this point. Like I said in the before qualifying kicked off, the qualifying position around here is so key, especially in that first lap, because the last thing you want to be doing, really, if you can help it, is being mid-pack and being caught up in all the chaos. Because let's be honest, it's a hard, fast braking zone into the first corner, and there's a high possibility that there might be an accident. So extreme caution is needed from everybody. But you don't want to be there if you can help it. So Cohen Geens is going to be full send now, but he's onto the sand, and I think that's probably just cost him a little bit of time. And he's invalidated his lap, which is unfortunate. So he's going to have to go again. If he's quick, he might get. He's going to get 2 laps in by the looks of the timer, provided he's got enough fuel. And we go on board with Van der Linden now, coming round at the final corner, currently in P24. Can Arjun Van der Linden jump any spots? No, he can't, unfortunately, but he's got time for 2 more, so we'll see what they can do. As Franz van der Linden, who weirdly isn't related, despite having a very similar name, getting onto the sand a little bit there in the Macca, currently in P13, so I wonder if Franz can find a bit of time. He's got exactly the same time as P12 at the minute, and P11 is only 0.005 off as well, so very strong lap times at the moment. I'm surprised that Tubi is now on track, being 0.035 off pole and being joint P2. Maybe he's just thinking of the class win. But I'd be worried about Pryor in P4 if I was him at the minute. Right, Van der Linden coming into the chicane in the Macca. He's currently 0.2 up. He's ran wide on the exit, and that's going to have invalidated and cost him all of the time. He might have saved it for the next lap, though. He's going to get one more flight. Oh, he's had a big slide on the exit there. Right, Ambrosi, Paolo Ambrosi, currently out in P7, 4 tenths off pole. Let's see what he can do. He's 0.2 up at the minute. There's a little bit of traffic in front of him. Hopefully there's enough of a gap that it won't compromise his lap. And if he gets 0.2 up and maintains his delta at the minute, that will jump him 1 spot. But he's going to want more than that if he can get it. So we go up the hill into the chicane, still 0.2 up on the delta, hard on the brakes, full send now, it's do or die. That was quite a nice exit. He uses all the track, car getting out of the way from him there, knows he's on a hot lap. Little bit deep on the final corner, but cuts it back. And I think he lost a little bit of time there in the final corner, which is unfortunate. Stays where he is for now, but he's got time for another flyer. But he's hard on the brake, so that's going to be it for Paolo. He's going to finish in a minimum of P7. There might be a couple of cars around him that jump him, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Paolo calls it a day there. Right, Matt Pryor currently out in P4, less than a 10th off pole. Is this going to be the lap where we see Matt take back pole, or is he at least going to take back P1 in class? He's going to want it, and he's probably going to fight for it, I think, because Tubi is in the pit, so he's not doing any more laps, so this is all down to Matt now to try and make something happen. But he is currently not up on his delta, and he's not going to get time for another lap, so this is it. This is his final lap. Couple of corners to go now as we head towards the chicane. Full send, full throttle, nothing to lose here. Conway's just behind him, they're not in the same class. Let's see what he can do. That was a nice run through the chicane, hard on the brakes. Gets the Gets the apex right. He's 0.1 up on the entrance to the final corner. Let's see what he gets as he runs down the back straight and crosses the line. Is he going to jump? He goes P2 by 0.017. You know what? I'd be really frustrated with that. I don't know if I'd be happy or frustrated, just because of how close that is to pole. Although he's puts him on the front row now, unless Zoltan can do anything different, and he is getting a slipstream off the Maka, who might actually get in his way a little bit here. I don't know if they're both on a hot lap. No, the McLaren moves out the way. Zoltan might have gained a little bit of a benefit there from sitting behind him for a bit. But no, he's pulled over to the side, and he's calling it a day. So Zoltan going to stay where he is. Right, Gallimini now. Currently P8, P4 in class overall. Let's see what he can do into the chicane. Bit of a twitch there on the exit, but no real dramas. Nice and steady into the final corner. Currently 0.1 up on at the delta. Let's see what that turns into as we cross the start-finish line. P8 as well. Yeah, didn't change. Carl jumps across the line. Just jumps one spot there at the end, up to P9. And that is qualifying finish. So congratulations to Tont in the BMW for pole with a lap time of 54.6, I think it was. So what happens now? Well, drivers will do a full formation lap. They'll get gridded up. They'll decide what they want to do with their strategy. And we'll do a full formation lap, and then it's 75 minutes of racing, so it's a long time to be racing. Most enduro stints last for about 60 to 65 minutes, so this is it's an intense race, it's an intense track. There's lots to think about, and in races like this, you've kind of got to be the steward, you've got to be the engineer, you've got to be the driver, you've got to do the maths behind the scenes, so you've got to think about what you want to do for a plan. So strategy is going to be really key here. Especially if you're on pole. I think it's really difficult to predict what you're going to do if you're starting from the front, because you could risk going for a splash and dash and just hoping that you can make it on tyres and hope that you've got enough pace to outrun the rest of the pack on full fuel. Obviously, the higher the fuel load, the more weight the car carries. Or do you just do a full pit stop and do you change tyres? Because actually, if you change tyres, your pit stop's longer. You lose 25 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it might be. But is your pace fast enough to make up that difference? So it is really a guessing game, I think, if you're on pole. I suppose it depends on how much you're on pole by and how much testing you're doing. Have you tested the low fuel running? Have you tested what your fuel load is? What your pace is like on full fuel? I think it's a little bit easier if you start from the back. I think if I was starting at the back now, I'd just go high fuel, run right to the end. You know the first couple of laps that the pace is going to be a little bit slower because the cars will be bunched up. Gives you an opportunity to bed the tyres in. You can be a bit careful. However, this is sim racing, and everybody likes to send it because we're all racing drivers, or so we think we are. So yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. We'll see what happens. Jesse Van Dryle in the chat. Grenical saying, "Let's go, Henry." Yeah, it's a great drive from Henry, and yeah, so I think it's going to be really interesting just to see how it all sort of pans out. There'll be a full formation lap as well, which will give those that are starting on the higher fuel or even the lower fuel an opportunity to sort of warm their tyres in, get used to it a little bit, and then we'll cross the line and we'll go 75 minutes and just see where people end up. So drivers right now will be taking a quick 2 minutes, get themselves all set up, and then we'll see them on the grid very shortly. So we've just had some news come in that Mitch Chubby has withdrawn, so it looks like he might have had some issues going on there. Don't know whether that's so he's had some personal issues going on. So Mitch, so it's a shame that Mitch has had to leave, but obviously real life comes first. So Mitch, whatever's going on in your personal life, mate, I hope it all works out well. And that you can come back for next time. So yeah, I think although Mitch has had to pull out, it's very unfortunate. I think there is a drop round in this, so he could use this as his drop round and come back next week and not really have to worry about it. Obviously real life comes first, we all know that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you're in the chat right now, let's hear from you. Let's see who you want to see on pole at the end of this race, who you want to see winning. What you think the best strategy is. What would you do if you were one of these drivers right now? Would you go splash and dash? Would you go full fuel? Good evening, good evening, good evening to everybody in the chat. So yeah, what would you do if you're in the chat? Let us know. Because it's just really interesting, I think. Having an open strategy like this does make a big difference, but it does put that bit of extra pressure on the drivers. It's a nice lovely view there of the hairpin and the Schumacher S, as you can see there from the big sign on the right hand side. You know what, I actually really like that corner. I think it's one of those corners where if you get it right, it just feels so nice. Whereas if you get it wrong, it will just murder your lap time. So it's really important that you do get it right. But it's just a beautiful corner when you nail it. And that's what all of our drivers are going to be aiming to do today, is to get it right. It's also incredibly difficult to go too wide through there. But if we do start to see some overtakes happen through the Schumacher S, expect them to be quite spicy. CSBR Esports says hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Drivers just getting prepped now, and we're gonna see what happens. It's gonna be interesting. All right, we're on the grid now, so as you can see now, everybody starts to get lined up. We've got a countdown timer driving us down. We've got Henry Tons currently on pole. In P2, we have got Pryor in the 27 car, P1 in AM. Then we've got Zoltan in the Lexus. In P4, we have got Conway in the 137 BMW. In P5 and P2 in AM class, we've got Bonanella. Apologies if I've just mispronounced your name. In P6, we've got Ambrosio in the 42 Ferrari. P7 and P3 in AM, we've got Gallimini. P8, we have got Van Horn in the first McLaren on the grid so far. P9, we've got Gomez in the Nissan GTR, Frank Hopp in P10 in the Lamborghini, Vrint in 11 in the McLaren. We've got a McLaren bunch here. So we've got Frans van der Linden in P12, Jan van Eck in P13. In P14, we've got Vilsma, in the 669 McLaren. P15, we move to Vervent in the 73 BMW. Then we've got Edners, Casale in P18. Then we've got Steve Parker, Arjen van der Linden in P20, Neugebauer in the 608 Ferrari in P21, Cohen Greens in P22, leading us out of our silver class. Then David Gallant in the Ford, the 454, Luongo in the 51 BMW, Actis in the 133 BMW in P25, Ferres in P26, Van der Voort in the number 6 BMW, and then leading us from the rear is Juvo van Doesburg in the 613 McLaren. So that is our grid. Drivers will now be going out to do their formation lap, get those tyres warmed up. And I'd tell you what, if I was that 613 McLaren driver right now, I'd be full fuel and just hoping that there's chaos in front of me to try and steal a few spots. But Henry Tons is the leader for R2R, going out on pole in the BMW. He's got Pryor behind him in the Mustang. The BMW is also a very capable and fast car, so despite the Mustang arguably being a little bit quicker on acceleration, it might struggle to get past the BMW of Henry Tons. Henry's going to be wanting a very clean start here going down towards turn 1, so he can get a nice getaway. And he's going to want to drive away from the pack here. Zoltan in the Lexus is going to be eyeing him up though, and I think if I was Pryor in that Ford now, I'd be thinking, right, I'm P1 in class. Do I really want to worry about the rest of the silver class, or do I want to win in my class? And if you wanted to win in his class, I think just keep it nice and clean. Don't worry about fighting too much in the first lap, and keep your gap to Bonanella in P5, who's P2 in class. I think that's going to be super important. But that's obviously his choice, and like I said earlier, we all think we're pro racing drivers, so anything could happen. You see Henry there getting the tyres of that BMW warm on the run up to the chicane. Drivers will start 2 by 2 once we get onto the back straight, and it will be a rolling start. And we shall see what happens. So ACC is now lining everybody up in that 2 by 2 formation. And get ready for some action as we're about to go racing in the next 30 seconds or so at the Nurburgring GP for SSRI round 1 of our tier 2 race. All the pressure on Henry at the minute to try and maintain that pole. Right, final corner. Last chance for anybody to do any warming of their tyres, as ACC sets you a speed limit to try and hit. Well, that you must hit, otherwise you risk getting a penalty. But any second now, we're going to be green. Right, it's lights out and away we go. That is not the start that Pryor wanted. He goes down to turn one. He's got a drive through already for incorrect start position. Henry Tons gets a nice clean getaway, keeps that inside line. He's got a big enough gap here that he can hopefully defend the inside. Zoltan's going to be looking to make a move happen. There's a little bit of contact there between P2 and P3, but nothing dramatic. A few cars running a little bit wide there, but for the most part, the leaders and mid-pack have got through quite clean. Going a little bit wide. It's going to be 2 by 2 into this next left. This is where everyone gets really bunched up and you start to see that Constantina effect, and the 133 car there with the yellow flag at the back of the pack. But Gallimini is keeping it too wide through here. He's going to have the inside into the next corner, but he might have to yield. He didn't quite get the exit there that he wanted, and he's under pressure now. But that's Tom Ferris in the SMTB McLaren Evo that just looks like he's had a bit of a moment there. And I'm not sure what's happened, but that will probably be one that the stewards will look at after the race, should it get reported. It looks like it's been with Cohen Greens. But Henry Tons has had a fantastic getaway, currently up into P1 still. Ignore the countdown thing happening on ACC. It does this when it has no idea where anybody is and people start to go through sectors. It will settle down after this race and you'll see that Henry is still out in P1. But he is being pressured at the moment by the BMW of Conway, but Conway is about 6/10 back. You can see just how tight some of this racing is at the minute. Right, we're going to go into the chicane in a minute for the first time, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. Henry is pulling away from the pack at the minute, but Conway is not going to try and let him get away that easily. Right, into the chicane for the first time, and the 51 car going slow at the back there. Not sure what's happened, but Henry straight through the chicane, nice and clean, no dramas. Keep an eye on the track map on the right hand side to see if there's any yellow flags that happen. Looks like everybody's got through nice and clean. And after lap one, our pole sitter remains in first place. Great start. That's exactly what Henry would have wanted there. He had a perfect start, no risks, no dramas. Keep leading. That's a dive up the inside for P2. He's going to try and oh, there's a little bit of contact there as Matt Pryor takes his spot up to P2. Not sure Conway's going to be too pleased with that, but I'm not sure Conway really needed to think about fighting that one, because actually he knows that Matt Pryor's got a drive through. So there's no real drama there or reason to scrap that. He is still going to be P2 once Matt takes his drive through. Matt's got a few laps to get that done, and here we can see Zoltan under a little bit of pressure from the Ferrari up his inside, who might get the move done here, and he does, but Zoltan's going to fight back into the next corner. Oh, and that's wide on the Ferrari. That's really unfortunate. He might lose a couple of spots here, and he does, and that might open the door up to somebody else coming at him. Fabio is under pressure at the minute from Frans van der Linden in the 65 McLaren behind, but he's managed to maintain the gap, so no dramas there. I'd expect to see Mr. Pryor coming in very shortly for his drive-through. I'd be doing it sooner rather than later whilst the pack is all bunched up. Sal put in the chat, so sad I can't participate due to work, would to have loved the race series. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Hopefully the next one for you though, mate. Hopefully the next one. Alright, is this going to be the lap that Mr. Pryor boxes? Let's see. It is not. He's going to stay out for the whole 3 laps. And that's... oh, Vince has had a big moment there. Not sure what's happened. You can see the bonnet's raised there. He's going off-roading. The M&M's car needs to be careful with the rejoin. But yeah, he's had a bad day there. Looks like that's a lot of damage for Wouter there. Not sure what has happened, but big moment, and that's going to be costly. Henry still out in P1. He's getting a lot of pressure from Matt. He's not going into the pits, but he's sure as hell showing that he's got the pace to keep up with the leaders here, despite being in the amateur class and P1 being a silver class. But yeah, Henry doing a great job, and like I say, that qualifying position and that start is just, it's just so key to to making sure. Here's the replay of the accident that happened with Rint, so you can see here we go side by side. No real contact there. Oh, and there's the contact. Oh, and both cars into the wall, spinning around, and the 80 car kind of recovers a little bit with lots of damage, but Rint is that's going to be a big hit for him. And is realistically, unless he's doing crazy lap times, he's probably going to put him out of contention in this race. But we'd like to see him stick around, box, fix the damage, get himself back out on the track, and see where he can finish the race. Well, we're on lap 2 now. So you can see just the pressure that these drivers are under. They've got 75 minutes of this. 75 minutes of just flat out race. And we're going to go on board with Matt now as we head up towards the final chicane. And he really is keeping that pressure on Tons, but he's got to box this lap, I believe. And he's got purple lap at the minute, as you can see. So Matt comes into the pits now. Doesn't want to overcook this, but it'd be really interesting to see where this drive-through brings him back out on track, because he's going to be quite frustrated with that. The pit limiter goes on, and you can see there Matt making his way down the order as all the cars come past him. That is really unfortunate. You do have to feel for him with the incorrect starting position, which gave him the drive-through. But there's a long way to go. There's still an hour and 8 minutes, and he could make up a lot of time. We know he's got the pace. The other unfortunate thing is he's just heat cycled his tyres. They're going to have cooled a little bit on the drive-through. So Matt is going to come out of the pits in P22, P23 actually, as he gets jumped there. So lots of work for Matt to do, but like I say, he's got the pace, and hopefully we can see him start to make his way back up through the order. And Cohen Green here is going into turn 2, and I thought there was going to be a little battle going on there, but actually a little bit of a gap has been created to the McLaren bond. That's very close on the brakes. Oh, a little bit of contact. Oh, and he's round. Big moment there. And Greens looks like he caught the back of him there. Yellow flag as Andrea Luongo is spun around in turn 3. That looks like that might be one that's going to get reported. That is not what we want to see. That's very unfortunate. Alright, we're on board. Well, not quite on board, but we've got a bird's eye view of Horvath Zoltan at the moment in the Lexus. He's currently got purple lap in the only Lexus in this race, so doing a fantastic job. And he's going to be one of catching the 2 cars in front that are fighting really hard for position here. As Dario goes up the inside, they're going to go too wide through the final chicane, and that is a bit of contact. Dario does get through, but yeah, that was brave. That was certainly brave, and that's going to give Carl Van Horn a run now on the Lexus down into T1. Is he going to try and make the move? Will the slipstream be enough on the Lexus? I'm not sure it will, if I'm honest. He pulls out to the right there, trying to break the slipstream and go a little bit defensive, but it's not going to happen. That's a big dive there from the car behind in the Ferrari, but hits the apex nicely, and everyone gets through turn 1 with no dramas. There's a nice big bunch of cars going on here, and they are going to bunch up quite quickly, especially as you see the Constantina effect sort of kick in, as you did there, into the heavy braking zones. So it'll be really interesting now to see if Carl can make anything happen. He's under a lot of pressure at the moment from Ambrosio behind him in that Ferrari, so he's going to want to be... It's a difficult one, this. So does he try to attack the car in front, or does he think about it and say, right, I know the Lexus is fast, I know he's got purple lap, let's try and stick with him and let's pull a gap to the cars behind, and then we'll deal with the Lexus after. It's interesting to see what sort of mentality these drivers have. Is it going to be, right, just full send, just try and get past the Lexus. If I'm quicker than him, let's try and make it happen. Or is it a case of, let's see what we can do and let's try and stick with him. It is a bit of a fight that's going on here on this, for this sort of top 3, top 4 position. And A little bit defensive, but no real dramas. Zoltan might try and get in the slipstream here as we go into the final corner and down the back straight, sort of the longest straight on the track. And there's a bit of an attack behind. Ambrosi and Van Horn go toe to toe, and Ambrosi looks like he's Ambrosio. Looks like he's made the move happen, but turn one is not far away, and he's in the slipstream. Looks like he's going to come on the attack back, hard on the brakes on the McLaren into T1, and that might give him the spot back. But that's the cut back, and that's a little bit too much of a cut there on the grass, and probably lost himself a bit of time there. That's a great little fight, wasn't it? Love that, love that. Paolo's going to be definitely looking to get that move done again sometime soon. I think it's just a case of stick with him, stay in the slipstream, and that's exactly what Zoltan's doing to this BMW Conway in front at the moment. Stick with him, see what we can do. When the time's right, make the move happen. Zoltan's P3 in class, fastest man on track at the minute. Let's see where he ends up. Matt Pryor has found a few spots from the drive-through that happened earlier, up to P20, but still got quite a way to go to get back to where he was. But yeah, Zoltan currently trying to pull away from the cars behind. I think is probably the mentality at the minute. Very impressed that the Lexus is the fastest car on track at the moment as well. Tons to pole, so you kind of expect the pole sitter to be fastest man on track, but clearly that's not the case. It's interesting in this game how, or should I say sim? Am I allowed to call it a game? Who knows? It's interesting in this game how fuel load makes a big difference the way a car feels and performs. So if you've never played the game before and you jump in a car that's got 5 litres of fuel in, it'll feel loose and nimble and agile and pointy, and then you put full fuel in and all of a sudden it's weighty and heavy and it doesn't turn as much as it used to before. And drivers have got to adapt to that, and as time goes on throughout the stint, the tyres will start to wear, the fuel load will start to lower, and the car will continue to behave differently. And the drivers, especially if they're doing a splash and dash in this thing, will have to adapt to that as they go through the race, and that's super difficult to do, especially if you're used to just hot lapping. If you're a hot lapper, when you suddenly get given a car that's got full fuel, you'll probably find it a little bit challenging. There looks like another move that might be on up into T1, not quite though. Gallimini looking to make something happen on Ambrosio in front, but that wasn't the one this time around. Nice little battle. Van der Linden here in the 14 BMW, putting the pressure on Bartolucci in another McLaren. Lots of McLarens out on track today. Van der Linden in our silver class, Bartolucci in our AM class, and Bartolucci's going to want to keep that position. He's P3 in class, so he doesn't need to worry necessarily about if he loses the spot, but he's not going to want to, because actually you want to keep your overall position for the race if you can. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this little battle turns out. It seems Van der Linden seems to be dropping off a touch there through that sector, but might pull it back through the sort of higher speed stuff in the BMW. The McLaren, one thing it does suffer with is it doesn't brake as well as other cars, which means it's really vulnerable to attacks from people that are braking, that are able to outbrake it, the Ferrari, the Mustang, BMW, etc. So if you're in that McLaren, you need to maximise the high aero that it's got and the high downforce to try and pull away through the sort of faster corners, if you will. But once it gets to the high speed, top end stuff, that's when it becomes a challenge when you get to the braking zones at the end. Cool. Big shout out in the chat for Cohen Geen saying keep up the good work. Yep. So Walter is must be out of the race then, so very unfortunate for him what happened there. It was a big smash, one for the stewards to look at later, no doubt. Alright, big slide in the BMW, and Steve Parker now in the Ferrari number 44 is trying to put the pressure on the number 6 BMW. Into the final corner we go. There was a shout out for Steve in the chat earlier saying that he was going to get a top 10. I believe he's not quite in the top 10 overall, for definite, but I'm not sure he's quite in the top 10 in class either. So a little bit of work to do. Might get a top 10 in class. But again, that pit stop strategy is going to be fundamental to how this sort of race pans out. And it looks like Voiter in the 669 McLaren is off the track there, rejoins quite precarious position there, but no dramas. But, immediately under pressure. So it'll be interesting to see how we can deal with this pressure now. He's obviously had a bit of a spin. The tyres might be a little bit warmer, and he's going to get. He's going to have to run away. But I'm not sure he's going to run away because he's got another McLaren right on his tail, and he's looking to make that move happen. You saw the dummy there up to the inside. Whether that was him trying to make a legitimate move or whether that was a bit of a psychological battle, who knows? But Van Eck behind is not letting him get away with this easily, and he's going to have hot tyres, which makes it a little bit more challenging. Is this going to be the move on into the... No, he's backing out of that. Not quite brave enough as we go into the into the chicane there. And we are now past the hour mark. There's 1 hour to go. These drivers have been going for just over 15 minutes now. And no doubt they are starting to sweat. Lovely view that, isn't it? Lovely image to put in everyone's mind on a Tuesday evening. But yeah, holding P14 nicely at the moment. But got a bit of pressure. Zoltan is still putting that pressure on Conway for P3. There's less than half a second between them at the minute. BMW very fast in a straight line. Lexus, rocket ship. It must have an extra 400 horsepower that's only used in a straight line. The thing is absolutely balmy. But that BMW is very quick there, and you can see the different lines that both drivers took through there. Interestingly, I think Conway may have missed the apex, but then went for a late apex, and it got him quite a good run out of that corner, which actually created a gap to Zoltan. And Bonanella in our AM class is currently the fastest man on track with purple lap, and that's a big that's a big moment there. He's going to make himself vulnerable, but goes a little bit defensive there. I thought Van Horn was going to try and be opportunistic there and make a move around Zoltan, but Zoltan holds on to P4. Yeah, but our fastest man on track at the minute is currently P2 and an amateur driver, who is now only 9/10 off pole. So Dario Bonanella, 9/10 off first, sorry. So Dario is currently putting pressure on Henry Tonts, who was our pole sitter, and is now in the slipstream. So are we going to see a move here in the next few laps for P1? And here might be a move for Carl Van Horn. No, he's backing out of that. He might try and go the long way around and get the inside line to the next corner, but he's probably a little bit far out. Yeah, he is. But Zoltan under pressure. Under lots of pressure. There's a part of me that wanted to break into the song Under Pressure there, but nobody on stream wants to hear that, so I definitely won't do that, because you'll all turn the stream off and never come back. Right. Anyway, yeah, so Zoltan getting pressured at the moment from Carl from Astro Racing Team in the number 13 McLaren, less than a 10th between them, and they're really not that far away from P3 either. And then Ambrosio behind is going to want to try and dial them in a little bit if he can. I think once these two start to fight, if they start to fight, that might reel in P6 a little bit, which will probably be quite nice for him, I imagine. That's a little bit deep there from Zoltan. But again, that Lexus, it's just a rocket ship. It's just a rocket ship. McLaren will be quick through Schumacher though with the high aero. Right, hard onto the anchors. You can see just how close they're getting into the braking zones now. And Carl is going to want to be setting up a move now. I think he knows he's a little bit quicker than Zoltan. I wonder if the tyres of Zoltan are starting to struggle a bit. I mean, we're 20 minutes into a stint now, so they could be going through a bit of a graining phase, perhaps. It'll be really interesting to see. See what happens. Is he going to get the slipstream into turn 1? I'm not sure he's close enough. we're going to go on board with Carl now as we go down towards T1. Flat out, full throttle, around the 100-metre board, on the brakes. And we've just seen actually Ambrosio drop down the order quite significantly. He's dropped down to 10th, so not sure what's happened there, but it looks like he's had a bit of a moment. So he's dropped a few spots, but Carl, you can see he's on board here, and you can see just how slippery that McLaren is. If you watch the steering wheel, you can see the amount of opposite lock he's having to apply through some of the corners where the back end just doesn't quite stay where he wants it to stay. There you go, perfect example of it. So the McLaren's got great high speed downforce, but through the slower stuff, throttle control is key to try and maximise your exits. And it's a car that you really do need to trail brake hard in, probably more so than most other cars, because the brakes just suck. So it's going to be really key for him to be. You got to be on the ball. You've got to be on the ball driving the McLaren. Right, here's a bit of a replay. So let's see what's happened here. Is it the chicane? It's not the chicane. So what has happened as we go into the final corner? Oh, that's unfortunate. So yeah, there you go. That's what's happened. So clipped in the final corner, spun around, facing the wrong way into the barrier. Nice 360, about 180 to get that back facing the right way again. No traffic coming, but yeah, cost him a couple of spots, which is not what he wants. We're on board. Alright, we're going to go and see this battle that's sort of happening ahead of us now with Frank Hopp and Frans van der Linden for P7. As we go down towards turn 1, there's not a huge gap between them. I wonder if Frank can start to close that gap up. Into turn 1 we go. You can see the tyre marks there on the grass where people have cut it, and that cone that we spoke about during the track run before qualifying has now disappeared, as you would probably expect as people try to maximise all of the track. But yeah, Frank trying to put the pressure on for that P7 spot, but he's got Gomez behind in the Nissan that's also going to be putting him under that little bit of pressure. So Frank's in a spot here where, again, he needs to think about, do I attack? Am I fast enough to attack, get past and run away? Because if I'm not, I know that Gomez will be sat right on my rear bumper and be threatening to take that spot off me. So he needs to really think about, what do I do here? Do I sit here and do I accept that this is the pace that we're going to go at? Do I send it and make a move happen and hope I can pull away? Sort of the mentality of the psychology behind driving is quite interesting, and I think actually if you can get into your opponent's head a little bit by putting them under pressure, doing some fake dummies, you know, all that kind of stuff that comes with it, you gain such an advantage. It's why sports psychology is a thing, right? But yeah, so Frank not bothered about the pressure at the minute. Let's be honest, he's sitting quite comfortably behind Frans van der Linden at the moment. He might actually be in the slipstream here as we go up towards the chicane, but he's not quite going to be close enough, I don't think, to make the move happen, but we'll see. They are a little bit closer. He's going to back out of this. Quite hard onto the brakes through the chicane, using as much as the curb as you can. Nicely done there. A little bit of grass, but no real dramas. And around the final corner. And you can see that Gomez is starting to close the gap a little bit. This is a nice rear spoiler view from Frans van der Linden as we go into the breaker zone, and just watch how much Frank closes up that gap in that Lamborghini. You can see the camber really well at that corner there as you exit out of it. Hard on the brakes. This is a nice little battle. You don't realise how big the spoiler is on the McLaren until you get a rear view shot. Yeah, but Van der Linden from Sim Racing Holland, credit where it's due, is also dealing with the pressure really well. Nevaya's in the chat, says hello. This battle could kick off. See, this is where it's going to start to get interesting, because this, 50 minutes to go. Is it too early to pit? Nobody's pit yet. So again, for anybody that's new to Assetto Corsa Competizione or have never seen one of these races before,
Next to the driver's name, you'll have their number board and their colour. And then on the right hand side of that, you will have the orange bit where it will say 1. So the 1 means there's 1 pit stop remaining. When that changes to green, it means that that driver has completed their mandatory pit stop and all requirements that go along with that pit stop. So in this instance, it is a minimum requirement to take fuel. There is no fixed fueling time, so you could take 1 litre if you wanted to. And there is no requirement to take tyres either. So again, drivers have that option. And you can see there we've got a nice split screen going on here. So in the bottom right hand corner, we've got a bit of a battle going on as we go into the final corner, and then in the top left hand corner, which isn't miles behind in all fairness, this could quite easily just merge into one view very shortly if something dramatic was to happen. Also going into the final corner is Frans van der Linden. Let's see if there's a move on down here from the Lexus into turn 1. He's opening, he's looking hard on the brakes. He's going to back out of that. Mitch Chubby says, hello, great racing. I thought you were Mitch, I hope everything's okay, mate. I heard that you obviously had to pull out. It's a shame. Hope to see you back next week. And that, I'll tell you what, Zoltan is really starting to put the pressure on now, and I wonder if he's going to try and make something happen. Zoltan is, he's trying. I think he's in that position now where he just needs to try and make something happen. And it's just not quite happening for him. Wife is very ill and family comes first. Yeah, absolutely, Mitch. You've got to do, you know, life does come first. And I hope she's okay, mate. I hope you're all good. But yeah, hopefully back in a couple of weeks to Barcelona. I love these little split screens, they're great, aren't they? You can see 2 little battles all happening at once. So we've still got the battle for P4 going on, and we've got Frans van der Linden still putting the pressure on and being also under pressure, at the moment. And again, like I said earlier, this is, you might actually see in the back end of the screen on the right hand side, yeah, you just about saw that there, the top left screen come into play. This could turn into a fight for P3 very quickly, from P3 all the way down to P7. Now Frank Hopp goes into the pit, so Frank Hopp, the first man to pit, so he is obviously going to be taking fresh tyres, and he thinks that taking fresh tyres and less fuel is going to be quicker than doing a splash and dash. So it'll be really interesting to see where Mr. Hopp comes back out on track once he's completed his mandatory pit stop. And Bonanella is still the fastest man on track, and he's 6/10 off P1 at the minute. But this is where all the action is at the minute. Horvath is Horvath? Who knows? Sorry, don't know. You can call me Andike if you want, if that makes you feel better. He's under pressure and giving pressure at the minute, which is a very difficult place to be. Because again, you've got to decide, right? You've got to decide, do I defend, do I attack, do I do both? How do you do both? When's the right time to attack? When's the right time to defend? I think if I was Zoltan now, I'd be thinking, right, let's just sit here. We're P3 in class. There's no reason to be attacking at the moment. Let's try and stick with him and jump him in the pits, because it's so easy to lose time in a pit stop. You get your pit entry wrong, you could lose a couple of seconds. You miss your pit box, you could lose a couple of seconds. You don't release your pit limiter in time coming out of the pits, you could lose a couple of seconds. It's so easy to just make mistakes in the pits, so I'd probably be trying to stick with him at the moment, just to make it happen. But yeah, we'll see what happens. There's 2/10 now between P1 and P2 as they've just gone into the chicane, so we might see a change for leader happen very shortly, which will be really interesting to see if one of our AM drivers would take first place. At the pace, I take that back now, because they've just dropped back 9/10. So Henry has just driven away from him in the final corner, so it looks like Bonanella has had a bit of an issue coming out of that final corner in the Ferrari, and I can tell you from experience that the Ferrari is slippery coming out of that final corner. So ignore everything I just said, because he just lost 0.7 of a second in that last sector, which is very unfortunate because he's certainly got the pace and he's purple lap at the moment. But yeah, Zoltan getting all the action here. But then again, he drives the Lexus, and it's the only man who's been brave enough to drive a Lexus. As Pryor goes into the pit, so Pryor was up onto the front row during qualifying, and phenomenal lap time for him. Got a drive through at the start, really unlucky. Now he's got to do a pit stop, so he's going to be taking fresh tyres, fresh fuel. Probably a smart idea, considering he's heat cycled the tyres during a pit stop. During the drive through, sorry. So it'd be really interesting to see where he comes back out in the order. Like I say, he's definitely got the pace. He was down into P23, I believe, when he came out the pits, and he's boxing from what would have been at least P16. There's another battle going on here. So Cohen Gaines looks like a freeze going for the move up the inside. Yes, he is. He gets that done very nicely into turn 3 and 4. Beautiful move there, up into P18, and starts to drive away. It says 18, but the board on the left says P20, which is a little bit confusing. It's because people have started to box now. So if you're in the chat who you support, and give us a shout out for who you want to see win in each class. What team are you with? Let us know who you want to see. And if there's anyone in particular you want to see on stream, just give us a shout and we can have a look. I'm very surprised that this Lexus hasn't caught the back of that BMW yet. Every time I've raced a Lexus, a perfect example of this is the Nordschleife going up the back straight. So if you're in the Ferrari on low wing, well, there's a yellow flag there, so that looks like it's the 608 car from Hamish. It is, so I don't know what's happened to Hamish there. He's pulled over, he's in the gravel, he stopped, and he doesn't look like he's getting going again. So that is a bad day at the office there. Hamish is dropping down the order. Oh, he's got it started now. Starting to get going. Still white flagged. He's going to take the exit slip road to rejoin on the route up to the chicane. That's a lovely view of a tree. Thank you for that, ACC. As we go up into towards the chicane. Not sure what happened there. We might get a replay later on to see what happened. Doesn't look like he's hit a wall. Looks like he's spun out a little bit. But yeah, interesting. But yeah, as I was saying, a good example of the Lexus is the Nordschleife going up the back straight, which is the longest track, the longest track and the longest straight in the game. If you're in the Ferrari, you could be in the slipstream and you still wouldn't get past the Lexus. However, it struggles elsewhere, which is how it balances itself out. So Hamish, just looking at the board on the left, has boxed. So I wonder if he's calling it a day or whether that's a legitimate pit stop, as Zoltan goes really wide there and opens up the door then to Horn, who looks to make the most of it, but as a compromised exit. Now they're going to go side by side potentially into the final chicane. I'm not sure if Horn's going to get the run though. This is what I'm trying to say about the Lexus. It's just so fast in a straight line that it's nearly impossible to overtake. And Zoltan holds on into the chicane, despite the mistake, despite the pressure. Zoltan is sticking his car where it needs to go, and you can see there that Horn was slightly wide there, but managed to get the cut back into the final corner, and he's still not close enough to make the move happen. The that number 13 McLaren of Carl Van Horn must be he must be quite a frustrated man at the minute, because he knew the door opened there and he knew the move was potentially on, but Zoltan with the mega defense, just getting his car in the right places at the right time, and having the right car to defend on. And like I said earlier, this track is very, very challenging to overtake on at the best of times. What I will say though is we've seen a relatively clean race so far, so here's a bit of a replay. So let's see what's happened here with Hamish. So we've come into the fast left-hander, nice and clean. Too much grass on the entry. Oh no, wow, I don't know what's happened there. Maybe a technical issue. He's just stopped. He's slammed the brakes down, pulled over. Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So I wonder what's happened there. Not really sure on that one. That's a bit of an odd one. He's got going again. He was in the pits. I'm not sure if he's come back out the pits or not, or whether he's still in the pits. No, he's still in the pits. So I wonder if he's had an issue or something's happened. It looks like he's still in the pits. Hopefully we'll catch up with him after the race, and hopefully everything's okay. That was very, very close to being rear-ended there, and that's created a big gap. Zoltan's going to be happy about that one. It's weird when you're under this much pressure for so long. The 1/10 of a second gap that you get when somebody makes a mistake behind you is just such a weight that's lifted off your shoulders, because you're like, okay, I don't need to worry about him for a little bit. I can start to drive away. I can settle in a little bit more instead of having to feel like you have to drive on the limit the whole time. It's quite a relief, which again, it's really interesting because Horn hasn't really done anything dramatic to try and make a pass. He's been quite safe. And I was a bit of a shout out to Tier 2 actually. I think on the whole it's been quite clean. There's been a few incidents, but as a general rule of thumb, it doesn't seem too bad. Turn 1, from what we saw on stream, looked particularly clean as well. I'm sure there might have been a bit of contact further down perhaps, but it looked quite clean, which is what we always want to see. So one person I do want to keep an eye on still, and I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, but is the 27 car Pryor. So again, started near the front row, done a drive-through, done his pit stop, and he's now 23. So Matt Pryor is going to be, well, there's no other way to say this, he's just going to be sending it for the next 40 minutes and seeing where he ends up. He's got the pace, he's got the car, he's got fresh tyres, he's got lower fuel, he's got nothing to lose here apart from just go for it, and in the next race try not to be outside of the box or in the wrong position on the start line, and you never know, you might end up with a podium. A few more people coming into the pits now. So T Ferries and Jan Van Eck. Van Eck just coming out of the pits now, and Ferry is currently in the pits. Again, be interesting to see where Van Eck comes out. Quite a good job in qualifying, so let's see. Oh, and he gets a drive through. So that's either. It looks like he's been speeding going into the pit. So Jacko Van Eck is going to be kicking himself for that. It's such an easy mistake to do, and a bit of a slide there coming out of T1, but that's going to drop him back down the order significantly. And I've just noticed Frank Hopp is back in the pits, which is interesting because he's already pit once. So I'm not sure why Frank's going back into the pits, unless he didn't put enough fuel in, is the only thing I can think of. I'm not sure what's going on there. Odd. I'm sure he'll tell us after. And Gallimini coming into the pits now, one of the leaders in our AM class. Right, Ambrosio, who had the spin earlier, currently up to, it says P7. I'm not sure if it's P7 or P9 because it's kind of a little bit broke, and Zoltan's come into the pits now. So once everyone's pitted, the timing board on the left will hopefully reset itself. We'll know actually what position they're in, but either way, no matter what, he's in the top 10 at the minute. And after that spin, he's going to be wanting to look to recover some of that lost time. We're just past the halfway point now, so drivers will be considering to come in for a pit. Anybody that you see box now will more than likely be taking tyres and fuel, and you'll more than likely see some drivers stay out right till the end and try to capitalise on the splash and dash. If Henry Tonts, who's currently in pole, goes right to the end, I don't think that anyone else really stands much of a chance. Bonanella, if he decides to go to the end, interestingly, the Ferrari doesn't need to take fuel. Now, in the pit stop rules, you will have to take fuel, so you'll have to take 1 litre. But technically speaking, it doesn't need to take fuel. I know that because I did it last week. However, I don't know about the BMW. So Bonanella, if he's clever here, if he only has to take 1 litre and Tonts has to take 7 litres, could jump him in the pits. That's making the assumption that they will both go long. As Van Eck comes into the pits to do his drive-through, he's, like I said, he's going to be a little bit frustrated with himself, having dropped back down the order again from being in what was quite a strong position, but we all learn. And Henry Tonts does come into the pit, so Bonanella is now your new race leader overall and in class for Team SPX. And this is going to be really spicy now as we get towards the end of the race. And there is a blue flag there letting him past. So if he goes long here, this could be the man that sees the win and the checkered flag first. We've got 35 minutes left of racing, perhaps a little bit longer, depending on where the leader is when we hit the 0 time. Frans van der Linden, Edens and Bartolucci all into the pits as well. So keep an eye on Pryor. Keep an eye on Pryor. He's currently the 3rd man down in green, in P18 at the minute. Gallimini currently the 1st AM class driver to have boxed up into 15th, coming through the chicane. So I wonder if he's going to jump a few more people that are currently going through their pit stop. Let's see what happens. As we go down the pit straight, Frans van der Linden starting to come out of the pits. And there he is on the right-hand side there. Is it going to be enough to make the move happen into T1? Van der Linden has to stick to the pit entry line. Gallimini goes the long way around. He's going to have the inside, but he's not quite alongside here, and this might not be enough. It's not enough, so he does have to concede going into turn 2. But, oh, there's a little bit of contact there, but perhaps, I'm not sure, it's quite hard to see from this view, but it's going to be really interesting now, because actually the car in front we know has just come out the pits. Gallimini's going to know he's just come out the pits. But when you just come out the pits, you're on cold tyres, which means you might be a little bit slower. So he could be really smart here. He could put him under a lot of pressure, force him to heat the tyres up fast, cause him to then create a little bit of graining through those tyres, which might slow him down towards the end of the stint and open up some opportunities to get himself back past. But we'll see what happens. I'm not sure if people think like that, or whether they just go, you know what, let's just send it and see what happens. Gomez in the Nissan comes into the pits as well in P5. So again, another driver that's going to be taking a presuming he will take tyres and fuel. I'm not going to try and say presumptuous again, because that just crashed and burned, didn't it? And he, oh, that was interesting. Okay, I thought he let him through there, which he might have done, but he runs really deep there. That was interesting. They're going to fight each other going into the chicane. Let's find out. Alright, hard on the brakes. Swinger in. They're not going to fight each other. Okay, well, there we go. Oh, and Gomez has got a stop-go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. So just, again, for people that are new, so you can get a drive-through for, and I believe this is right, somebody in the chat might correct me, you get a bit of tolerance when you enter the pits or exit the pits on the speed that you can do. So if you enter over a certain tolerance, you get a drive-through. If you exceed said tolerance, you get an SG30, which is a stop-and-go 30. Interestingly, Gomez has got a stop-and-go 30, but hasn't completed his mandatory pit stop either, according to the board. So what that actually means for for Gomez now is that he's got a box for a full pit stop. He's then got to come back round and do another pit stop for 30 seconds, which is going to probably drop him very near the back of this pack. And we are now seeing Mr. Pryor, who was very fast in quali, putting the pressure on for P15, and he's actually chasing a driver down that has just gone onto the grass, which is, I'm not sure if he's trying to let him through, because he's, oh, big contact there. That's not what you want to see ever. Or I don't know what's happened there. That looks like a miscommunication. Nearly contact there as well, and he goes really well. There's a spin there in the hairpin. that was chaos. As Andrea Luongo is done a full 360 and parked it on the infield and just returned to garage. Okay. I think what's happened there, from obviously the stewards will investigate, but that looked like miscommunication from somebody who was much slower than somebody who was much quicker. Yeah, interesting. That weren't great. Matt's going to be carrying a little bit of damage now. Luongo's dropped back into the pits. Gomez is now coming. Now, is Gomez going to be doing his stop and go 30 penalty, or is he going to be doing his actual pit stop? But either way, he is not going to be a happy chappy. We've got just over 30 minutes left to go in this race, and Matt's nearly ran into the back of the McLaren. He's going to try and swing it around the outside. He's going to go toe-to-toe, but he backs out of it going into the chicane, probably for the right reasons. Tries to live another day. He knows he's got the pace on T. Eddins in front to try and make it happen, but Eddins is going to defend, and he has the right to defend that position. And let's see what happens as we go down to turn 1. New season running again, Ricker 73. Yeah, so this is round 1, tier 2 of season 7. That's the Nurburgring GP, and then the next round in 2 weeks' time for tier 2, or next week for tier 1, is Barcelona. Matt Pryor does not get the move done into turn 1, but yeah, Edens is going to be really feeling the pressure right now, but he's going to defend, and he's got he's got to think about whether he wants to defend or not, because it is not only for position, it's in overall standings, it's for position in class too. Gomez is significantly dropping down the order. I think he's been in that pit stop for longer than 30 seconds. I wonder if he's calling that a day and he's just decided, right, I've got to stop, go 30. My penalties and my additional pit stop is just, that's it. We'll find out. We'll give it a bit of time, see if it clears. Oh, nice. That was very twitchy there. Matt's going for the switcheroo there. And he's going to go side by side. He's got the inside line, gets it stopped, gets given enough space by Edens. That was pretty hard racing there. And Edens manages to hold on to P14. This is going to be making Matt very, very frustrated at this moment in time, I think. But again, Edens doing a fantastic job. He's defending, he's putting his car where it needs to go. And it's just hard, fast racing, no contact. Yeah, I'm going to say that Gomez is calling it a day. Steve Parker currently in P5 for the guy who was in the chat, rooting for Steve, although he's not yet pit, so please bear that in mind. Right, Matt's in the slipstream. That's a little bit of movement there from the McLaren into T1 we go. This might be done and dusted. Is the McLaren going to try and fight it? Oh, bit of contact into the rear of the Mustang, but nothing dramatic. He's going to go up the inside though in the Macca, and oh, big crash. It is not Matt Pryor's day today at all. Big crash. Oh no, that's not what you want to see. That is not what you want to see. Into the straight into the side of the McLaren there. All cars are moving again, but they're going to have suffered significant damage there. And weirdly, they're back in the same spot they were in before. However, they're going to be much slower on lap times now. And he's let Matt through, but that isn't going to redeem the damage that he's just taken from the crash or the spin and melted his tyres. But that's Matt up into P15, and Mark Conway is currently your race leader. Still yet to pit, but Mark might be going for the splash and dash, which is smart, I think, at this point. He's got a 43-second gap to who's currently in P2, although that is not net P2, worth bearing in mind. So as you can see on the left, all the ones that are in green currently have done their pit stop. Anybody with a 1 mark in orange has not. But Mark currently leading the way in our silver class. 27 minutes to go. Mark was the first man out in quali, first man to put a time on the board during quali, and here he is now, currently leading the race. Guys, if you're not already, make sure you like, follow and subscribe the YouTube channel. It helps SSRI out. These guys host a variety of leagues, GT3 racing, multi-class endurance racing, charity events and so on and so forth. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and if you are in the chat and there's somebody that you want to see, give us a shout out and we can certainly have a look for you. Right, Bonanello, who boxed just behind P1, is currently up into 9th. Here he is, Dario, still the fastest man on track in the Ferrari. David Gallant, who was the winner of our of our rookie season last season, is currently P1 in AM class. currently P3 overall, is yet to box. So Bonanello is going to want to be trying to close the gap, but I don't think he's really trying to fight David Gallen here. I think he's trying to go for the win. Like I say, you don't just be the fastest man on track and not want to take pole. And yeah, it'd be really interesting to see where he ends up. Henry Tons, who's in P5, is the man he is fighting, and there is quite a gap there. So I'm not sure how that gap has been created, whether it was a poor pit stop from Dario, but we've got 25 minutes left, and he can certainly close that gap. I would say that the top 4 are going long, and a pit stop around here is probably about 55 seconds for a full pit stop. It will be reduced to probably about 30 seconds, 25 seconds, give or take, I suspect, for those that are doing the splash and dash. BMW using the wrong tier, Conway. No, so Conway is... So just to go through the tiers for you, CBSR Esports, so if they've got a... So this is tier 2, so just to give you some full context, tier 1 happened last week, tier 2 happens this week, then tier 1, then tier 2. It happens on alternate weeks. So in tier 1 you've got pro and semi-pro, and in tier 2, which is what this is, you've got silver. So silver is the guys with the white number board, and then AM is the guys with the red number board. And the way that it's worked out is each driver has to do pre-season testing, and that determines which class that they basically get put into. And here we can see Henry Tons looking to make a move happen on Steve Parker. Steve Parker, I don't think he's going to fight this too hard. He's still got to do his pit stop. No, I take that back completely. Steve is going to fight him and cause Henry Tons a bit of pressure. Is Henry going to get past him? He's not. Steve, although he's still got to do his pit stop, is giving his best job here at defending. He's not over defending. He's just doing enough as we go through the chicane and into the final corner. Just for some more context as well for CBSR Esports in the chat, Conway has not yet boxed, so he's not actually in P1 by over 40 seconds. So once he's completed his pit stop and everyone's gone through their cycle, we'll see where they come out. Speaking of pit stops, David Gallant into the pits, our current leader in our AM class. Let's see where he comes back out. He might be doing a full pit stop at this stage with 23 minutes to go. And here we can see Zoltan again in the Lexus against is that Bonanella? Yes, it is. No. Sorry, Geens. That man's had so much airtime today, hasn't he? So much airtime for Zoltan today. He's been under pressure or giving pressure in some form or another for pretty much the entire race. Alright, Actis in the 1 through 3 BMW also into the pits. Looks like he's suffering with a little bit of lag, or he's from the other part of the world. So he's from Argentina, I've just been told in my ear, so that explains the high ping. Currently into the pits in the 133 car. It'll be interesting to see where he pops back out. We've got 22 minutes remaining. Henry's still not got himself past Steve Parker. He's going to be waiting for Steve Parker to do this splash and dash if he can't get it past him, and that is going to allow the cars behind to start breathing him in. Although Steve is showing some good pace here, he's actually beginning to pull away, and Steve's been on the same set of tyres for just under an hour now, so he's done a phenomenal job at managing those tyres. We've got some support in the chat from Mitch for Gallant, who is currently P12 or P3 in class. And again, like we said earlier, he was the rookie winner last season. And a P3, he's just dropped to P4, so Matt Pryor looks like he's got past him, sorry. Oh no, he's dropping significantly further down the order. Now he's P4, he's dropped to 15th. I don't think the time board had updated there, is what's happened by the looks of it. Right, is Henry going to try and get himself past Steve Parker into turn 1? He's going to try for it, he's looking up the inside, Steve's giving him enough room. And it's not quite enough on the Ferrari again. This is going to be costing Henry so much time. And Van Horn behind is going to be really excited about the fact that Steve Park is causing him some trouble at the minute, and he's going to be looking to close it back up. Henry is realistically probably the race leader at the moment, once the pit stops are finished, but this is going to be hurting him hard. He's going to look up the inside, nearly contact, but no dramas there. Going to go around the outside. That's brave, around the outside of there. Nope, going to go for the switchback, and it's not quite enough in the 143 BMW. Gallant back out in 12th, P3 in class. Gallant's dropped down the order a bit now, so he's now 16th. So it looks like we're teammates. Boston 53 racing. Nice, nice. I think Gallant will make his way back up though. I'm not sure what's happened to the timing screen. It's kind of glitched a little bit and dropped him down. It must have been a pit stop cycle. But Steve Parker is giving him so much pressure. At the moment he goes wide and he lets both cars through there, which is really interesting. So now Tons is under pressure from Van Horn, who I told you earlier was going to get a bit excited about how much Steve Parker was holding him up. And just look how close that Van Horn is behind now. And you know what? You know who else that's going to favour? Mark Conway in the lead. Because that just means that splash and dash that he's hoping to do in the next 19 minutes, 18 minutes or so, has just widened the gap. Announcer's curse, yeah. I think ACC curse. He hasn't crashed, that's the main thing. Normally when an announcer calls a name out, they end up in a wall. So, fortunately that hasn't happened yet. Alright, Henry is going to have to defend here. We know he's got the pace. We also know Van Horn has got the pace as well to put him under some serious pressure. And this could be the battle for the lead. It could be. Could. The key word is could, because realistically pit stop strategy makes a big difference here. Whereas in Barcelona next week, it's a 65-minute race, and I believe that there is mandatory tyres off the top of my head. So that will change the strategy slightly for pretty much every driver. So it looks like every driver has now completed the mandatory pit stop that was going to take tyres, and the ones that are left are the ones that are just going to do that splash and dash. I can't imagine you'd want to box now if you weren't taking tyres. So Mark Conway is going to want to be just driving away as far as he can. But Henry, the one under pressure. We're 29 laps into this race at the minute. 18 minutes to go. We've had a few people withdraw, which is unfortunate. Looks like one might have had a technical issue. We've had some personal issues happen, a couple of incidents. What position is car 992 in P14 in class? He was wondering. So car 992, 995 is that supposed to mean, not 992? Are you on about Keepers? Keppers? Are you on about Eddins? Tim? So he's 995, so he is P4 in class. Yeah, so cars Tim is currently P4 in class, and if he catches Pryor up, he'll be P3. Speaking of Pryor is 2/10 off Van der Linden at the moment, by the looks of it. And despite having damage, it looks like he's giving him a bit of pressure for P12. Matt's done a phenomenal job considering he's had a drive-through, he's had an incident, he's had to do a pit stop, and he's still putting pressure on and got the pace to potentially, if he plays his cards right, get himself a top 10. Let's see what he can do. Yeah, I think. Is that the move done for Matt? That is the move done for Matt. That doesn't look like there was much of a fight there, in fairness. So Van der Linden just allows Matt through pretty much in the final corner. Doesn't fight it, knows that he's got the pace. Sometimes that's a smarter thing to do, I think, because actually you spend so much time battling that it actually might cost you more time down the road. Not necessarily at this point with like 16 minutes to go, but I think the closer you are to the start of the race, the less you want to fight, because actually it hurts your sort of race distance, if you will. And Bonanella now, the fastest man on track, is currently giving Geens a bit of pressure. Geens is yet to stop. Phenomenal drive this from our AM driver Dario. He's done He's done a great job, great job trying to. Well, he was out in P2 at one point. I don't know if he had a bit of a moment in the pits, but he's currently P1 in class. And he's had a big slide there. Great job to catch that. I thought we was just going to see him into the wall. That would have been a commentator's curse there for Mitch, who called it out earlier in the chat. That would not have been. That would not have been a good day for him. And the 669 car from P2 has just come into the pits, which is really interesting. So I'll keep an eye on that. Let's see how long he's actually in the pits for. Is it going to be a short couple of seconds, or is it going to be the whole time? Bit wide there from Dario. He's really putting the pressure on now. We might see a move happen as we go down towards turn 1. He's got the slipstream. Want to be careful you don't get too close here and bump into the car in front. But I think this might be the move done for Dario. Hard onto the brakes. There's no fight there. Yeah, he's not bothered fighting that. There's no defence there as he goes up another spot. Great drive. And that was a splash and dash from P2. Let's see the AM race from P13 to P16. So we'll take a look in a moment. Let's just see if Dario can pull away now that he's got the move done. I suspect that he probably will. So Franz again is under a little bit of pressure and attacking at the same time. Oh, I thought there was going to be contact there. I'm going to be honest. I thought Cohen Gaines was going to get spun around, but there wasn't. There was not. Let's see if Franz van der Linden can make anything happen. He's definitely quicker. Looking at the difference in pace. And is this going to be the move? They're going to be side by side. This is a tough corner to get the move done on. It is, and both cars get through actually, and he makes it happen. Nicely done there for both of his cars. Unfortunate for the car who lost out there. That's not what you want to see. So just for a bit of context, so the 669 McLaren that boxed from P2 has come out in P11. So for those that are wondering, as a bit of a guideline where Matt might come out, you could use that for a little bit of context. But Van der Linden up to P7. And I've just seen on the timing board that Henry Tons has lost the spot to Van Horn. So I'm not sure what, how or when that happened, but Van Horn is now currently your first man that hasn't boxed. We've got 13 minutes to go. When does Mark pit? When does the 137 BMW pit? And will he maintain the lead? He's going to know that he's in a good spot here. It's just whether he does not. Looks like we've only got 3 people left to pit. Mr. Conway, Steve Parker and Cohen Gaines are the drivers yet to box. But Franz van der Linden still under a little bit of pressure from that green Ferrari behind of Gallimini. And he's not free yet. He is not free yet. The Ferrari's quite strong through the mid-sector. And so here's a replay of the overtake. Is it into the chicane? It is. Oh no, it's not. It's the corner before. Sorry, 2 corners before. They're side by side. Switch there from Henry onto the curb as he hits the exit, and that opens the door up. And then they end up going side by side. This is a nice little battle, this, isn't it? Proper hard fighting. And then that's the move done, and Henry drops back a spot. He's going to want to fight that back. He's not going to be happy about that. This is what I'm saying, like, you know, you can go whole race and you can drive perfectly. Then on the last few laps, one mistake and all of a sudden you've dropped a spot and you're no longer on the podium, or you're no longer winning. And that was how the move got done and how Carl made it past. But yeah, Henry is currently only 5/10 off him, so he's going to give him some pressure. We've got 11 minutes left to go. Van der Linden's created a little bit of a gap behind to the Ferrari, but not a phenomenal gap. But it's It's enough to make him feel. It's enough to make him feel safe. Let's say that at least. And Bonanello is still the man on track who has the fastest lap. Not sure if he's currently the fastest man on track in terms of actual lap times right now, but he's put the fastest lap in throughout this entire race so far, and is currently leading the AM class. So Conway is now boxing. We've got just over 10 minutes to go. This must be a splash dash. Where is he going to come out? Keep an eye on the leader on the timing board on the left. And let's see where it ends up. The number 13 car is the one that's going to be closest. Van Horn and Tons, who may have already gone past him. They haven't yet. This is going to be really close. Mark Conway, could have pulled out a master strategy here. He's been in the pits a long time though, so I wonder if. Oh, there we go. So he was in the first pit box actually, so I take that back. So that was a splash and dash from Mark Conway, and you know what? I think he's leading. He is leading. So Mark, the splash and dash has paid off. And he's just got to drive around now for 9 minutes, and he will take pole. I keep saying pole, P1 is what I mean to say. And now it's going to be a fight for who takes P2. But yeah, master strategy there from Mr. Conway. Great effort, and he's got a significant gap back to P2 at the moment. So he just needs to drive a nice steady race, make his way to the end, and take the overall win in Tier 2 in round 1. Still a couple of drivers yet to box, so Steve Parker and Cohen Geens. Like I said earlier, the Ferrari can go right up until the end. So you probably only take 1 litre of fuel, Mr. Parker. Not too sure about the McLaren. CBSR Esports in the chat says smart move. Yeah, Mark played an absolute blinder there. Didn't start on pole. Can't quite remember where he qualified off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't on the first 2 rows. But currently leading the race, and he's got a 13-second gap to P2, so he can drop his pace by a couple of seconds a lap now and just bring it home. There's no pressure now. Just drive around, get the lap times in, and take the checkered flag. Great effort. So I'm wondering when the McLaren's going to come in. I'm not too sure on the fuel usage of the McLaren around the Nurburgring GP track. It could be quite good. I don't suspect it's horrendous. So it'd be really interesting to see when Cohen boxes. He's probably going to come out around the P15 mark, P14, P15 mark. I would suspect, maybe a little bit further down. And Steve Parker maybe around the P11, P12 mark. Oh, Steve Parker's in. So box for S Parker. Hopefully no dramas on the pit entry. The pit board is quite far down, so it's a bit deceptive if you've never practiced it. And box, you can see the front end of that Ferrari 296 there with a little bit of bumper damage. The detail on the front. The back doesn't look too shabby, but he certainly had a little bit of rubbing racing going on there at some point during this race. Cohen Geens has stayed out, however. Right. Up on the jacks. Bonk. Oh, I can't see you, mate. Ah, there we go. Cool. We back live? Cool. Right, we're back live. Apologies for that, guys. Looks like the stream may have crashed just slightly there. So, Steve Parker, by the looks of it, we didn't quite see what happened on the pit stop because of the stream crashing, but he's got a drive-through and he's back in the pit, so it doesn't look like he's having much fun there at the moment. But we're back out. We've got 4 minutes to go. That's around 3 laps, and Mark Conway is still leading. So yeah, hopefully a few of the viewers are still back with us. Like I say, the stream dropped out there, not what we quite had in mind, but Cohen Geens is your man still left to box. He's the only one on track, and he's going to be coming in probably in the next couple of minutes or so from DDS Racing. So, like I say, the mandatory pit stop has to happen, otherwise you get a substantial penalty from the sim, which is worse than doing a pit stop quite significantly, so you want to make sure you do it. But yeah, apologies there for the bit of a glitch that happened with the stream, but we're back up and running. There's a few minutes to go. We lost 30 seconds or so, so no big dramas. But what we did see was Steve Parker get a drive-through for speeding the pit lane, which is super unfortunate. Really easy to do here at the Nurburgring. Speaking of coming into the pits, here comes Cohen Gaines, who's braked super early because I'm not sure he knows where the pit board is. Not sure why he's on the pit limiter now. Maybe the pit board's got knocked down and that's why he's so far back. But that's just cost him quite a bit of time because the pit board is there where that line is. So a bit of an early box there for Cohen. Cost himself probably an extra 7 or 8 seconds. But wins the pits no matter what, and he's going to do the splash and dash and see where he comes out. Paolo Ambrosio is currently putting the pressure on Gallimini for P7. Gallimini currently P2 in class. And doing a fantastic job here. Actually, he's getting a lot of pressure, holding it out. But at the minute, Paolo is going to want to try and make that move happen. And you can see that he's going a little bit defensive as we go into the hairpin. We've done 36 laps so far. Up the hill we go. We're going to get a nice bonnet shot here as we go in towards the Schumacher S. Getting the slipstream up onto that curve, turning in nice, getting just missing the curve there, but no dramas. Up onto that curve. Need to watch the braking into this next corner because it can be a little bit slippery. Hard on the brakes. Hit the green on the left. Perfect. Back onto the throttle. You can see the Ferrari again a little bit twitchy there coming onto this back straight, which is to be expected. It's pretty tough run there. And but actually Gallimini has pulled a little bit of a gap through that sector. This is a great bonnet shot. You can get a real sort of perspective of how fast these cars are going. Braking just before the 50 board. Just missed that first one. You can take a little bit more of that corner there if you need to, but it depends on the setup of the car. And then into the final corner. And this might, if he sets it up properly, give him a bit of a toe or a slipstream down into turn 1. But he does look quite far back, and I suspect Gallimini, if he has to, will go defensive. He's pulling out, doing a bit of psychological warfare there, but again, it's not going to work from that far back. It's interesting how you defend into T1, right? So Gallimini in front could have hugged the inside line and just defended T1, or he could have thought a bit further ahead and thought, well, if I stay on the racing line and go on the left, I get the inside line into the next corner, which gives me an advantage as long as I can stay side by side with him. So again, it comes down to that thought process of the driver, like which is the better option. If you know your car's a little bit slippery going through turn 1, you want to kind of stick to the race line. You don't want to come off it because actually your car might slide around a little bit. But if you come off the racing line and you know you've got grip, maybe that's the better option because then you get to go through this mid-section. It's really hard to get moved and through it. But this is a nice bonnet view cam of Paolo, the number 42 Ferrari, into the hairpin. Two slightly different lines through there. Paolo taking a wide line and a late apex, getting the run up towards Schumacher, and Gallimini keeping it nice and tight and getting on the throttle a little bit later. We've got 30 seconds to go. We're going to get an extra lap. If you look on the map on the right hand side, you can see the triangle of the 137 car. So that is Mark Conway about to take the final lap as we go across the line now. So leaders on the final lap. Mark has pulled off a mega strategy here, but this is the battle on track at the minute. You can see Mark in the final corner there, going down in the right hand corner there, going down into T1. He's got no pressure. He's 7.5 seconds in front of Carl Van Horn, who's in P2. Is this going to be the move? I thought he was going to look up the inside into that final corner there, which would have been brave, but he might get the slipstream now going down in towards T1. Is this going to be enough? Let's see. No sound? Have you got sound now, Anthony? You should have. Oh, my bad. Okay, cool. I'm not sure this is going to be enough. Did you not have the volume up? Is that what happened? It's not, I'm not sure this can be enough into T1. No, it's not. There's quite a significant gap. And Mark, the leader, currently just coming out of the first sector now, and about to enter into the second sector, into the hairpin, and pretty comfortable final lap for him. He's put off a massive big brain strategy, and the splash and dash has paid off big time. We'll hopefully get a few people join the commentary booth after this for some interviews. We'll say interviews. What I haven't told them is I'm going to interrogate them. No, I'm joking. We're not going to waterboard anybody just yet. And then, oh, there's a yellow flag there. That's not where you want to be, off the track. But he moves out of the way, reverses, lets people through. Not sure what happened to the 73 car there of Vervat. But that looks a little bit spicy. Right, Mark coming through the final chicane into the final corner and about to take the checkered flag. Well, ladies and gentlemen, your winner of the Nurburgring GT3 Tier 2 Round 1 is Mark Conway, whose name I will pronounce correctly at some point, despite the fact that we've done nearly 40 laps. Carl Van Horn takes P2. Henry Tons, our pole sitter, takes P3. Zoltan takes P4. Bonanella takes P5 and P1 in class. Van der Linden P6. Gallimini takes P7 and P2 in class. Ambrosio takes P8. You can see all the drivers starting to line up at the end of the start line there. And Matt Pryor, who's had a very dramatic race, is just about to take P3 in class. So he started on the front row, he got a drive through for a bad position, he had a crash, he had to do a pit stop, he had another crash, and he still finished P3 in class, which is a phenomenal effort from Mr. Pryor, considering he was certainly driving around with damage. And all of the cars now starting to come in across the start-finish line. So hopefully we get a couple of interviews, but we'll see if people choose to join us. Well, if not, I hope everybody enjoyed the race. Next week on Tuesday, at exactly the same time, will be the Tier 1 race, which is at Barcelona, and then the week after that, we'll be back with these guys who you've just seen tonight, which will be our Tier 2 race, which will also be at Barcelona. So slightly different race. It'll be a 65-minute race with mandatory tyres, unlike this race, which was 75-minute with no need to take tyres. So it'd be really interesting just to see what happens there. We'll give it a minute or so, see if anybody joins from the interview waiting room. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that. I think Mark Conway has done a phenomenal job, really. It is genuinely really hard to plan out what your strategy is going to be on these longer races. And you've got to be so consistent. Consistency is fundamental to where you finish in these races. And he's obviously been very consistent start to finish. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. And he's finished himself top of the podium. So here are some of the highlights whilst we wait. Here's the start. Going down towards T1. Yeah, let's just put some highlights on for you guys and see if we get anybody in for an interview. It's an interrogation, really, but don't tell Chris. I'll tell you what, some of the liveries are pretty good. If you want a livery and you want it to be broadcast on the TV, SSRI do a premium members offer. You get various different sort of opportunities, I guess is probably the right word, like benefits that come with it. There's a small fee, but that helps SSRI run their servers and put on events like this with broadcasters, commentators, stewards, hosting servers, all the admin stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody sees. And it allows you to have your livery broadcast on our live commentary. So if you are watching and you're one of the drivers, Chris Hill is your man to speak to sort yourself out with that. Alright, let's just check the chat. Mitch says great broadcast. Thanks, mate. It's my first time doing one for SSRI, so
quite glad you enjoyed it. Good to have you here, and hopefully next week next race, everything's all good for you, and you can be back out on track and battling for some positions. Oh, it doesn't appear that anybody wants to join for an interview. Maybe they heard me say that I was going to interrogate them on stream and everybody's got scared. I'm not that mean, I promise. That was quite a brave overtake, that one, wasn't it? That lap 4 overtake, but it's stuck there. I love this little highlight reel that happens at the end of the broadcast as well. There's not many live broadcasts that do this kind of thing, so it's quite nice. But yeah, it doesn't look like anybody's going to join, so thank you everybody for coming to join and watch. Carl Van Horn has just said he's going to come for an interview, so we'll let him join. I'll tell him where to go because he doesn't know where to go. And Henry Tons has also come for an interview, so we'll speak to these guys, see what they say about the strategy and how they think it played off, and yeah, we'll go from there. So we'll speak to Carl first. So Carl, welcome, mate. You're currently live on air. That sounds like you're on a radio show. That's not quite what I meant, but you get the idea. Firstly, how are you and how was your race?
Yeah, I'm fine. Race was great. I didn't expect podium. A little bit confused about the refueling time during the race. All the way from 30 minutes to go, I saw a Conway on 50 seconds in front of me. So I thought, okay, he needs to refuel for 25 seconds, so I will get him at the end. But yeah, unfortunately, I came short on 5 seconds.
Yeah, I think the strategy obviously played a big part there. So did you did you start on quite high fuel and plan on going a bit longer, or was it just a case of halfway?
Yeah, I had 80 liters in the tank. I took new tires at my pit stop with I think 50 liters in the tank for the rest of the race, and finished the race with that.
Yeah, nice. And obviously the podium for you is obviously a great result. And we saw the overtake on Henry. That must have felt quite nice with the amount of pressure that you were trying to apply to get that move done. And eventually, it paid off.
I think he made a small mistake there. So yeah, that was my chance to overtake him. Otherwise, I think I wouldn't take P2 because the BMW is too fast on the straight.
Yeah, and next week, obviously, well, the week after next, you guys move to Barcelona. So how are you feeling about Barcelona?
Yeah, Barcelona is one of my worst tracks. So
really?
hopefully, with a lot of practice, I can get some good results for next week.
Yeah, perfect. So, all right, thank you, Carl. It's been good to see you. We're going to
thank you.
Drag Mark Conway in now.
Okay.
So, hi, I'm Mark, and welcome to the interrogation chamber. Great race, mate. By the looks of it, I think you obviously played the go long, high fuel splash and dash at the end, and resulted in a win. How's it feel?
Yeah, always good to get a win under your belt, especially round 1.
Yeah.
But yes, pretty much. My fellow racer Lewis Robinson raced last week on in Tier 1. And he did the exact same thing, went long and just did a splash and dash, although he crashed the pits, but we won't mention that. But yeah, no, it was a great race. It was close battling, but yeah, it was glad to get the win, really.
Yeah, it was a great result, and I think I saw that crash happen because it happened in front of me in Tier 1 last week. So I know exactly what you're on about, but I also won't mention anything live on stream. So yeah, I think great start for you to this season. Would there be anything you'd do differently? I know you took the one, but was there any learnings or takeaways from this race that you think you might take into Barcelona next round?
Just another P1 would be lovely, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, obviously it was pretty tough. I didn't want to. I knew at the start that I couldn't really sort of push too hard because my plan all along was not to pit for tyres unless I had an off or was crashed into, or one of the above really. So I knew at the start that I just wanted to sort of play it safe and just try and nurse them tyres into the race without sort of pushing too hard really. So, but is it the same Barcelona 60 minutes next week, isn't it?
So yeah, so Barcelona's 65 minutes next round, sorry, but it is mandatory tyres, so it will change the strategy for a lot of drivers.
Nice. That's good. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good result and great start to the season for you.
Thanks very much.
Oh, cheers, Mark. All right, we're going to drag Henry in. So evening, Henry. As I've just said to Mark, welcome to the interrogation chamber. How are you? And how was your race?
Doing good. Bit disappointed in myself at the end result, but hey, that's what you get when you try to go for first place.
Yeah, it's a tough race. I think you obviously started on pole, phenomenal qualifying effort. Mark obviously did the splash and dash, which showed that might have been potentially the quicker option. Obviously, there's a lot of variables in the race, so it's hard to say exactly. But and then obviously the drop, yeah, and then the drop back down to P3. But I think you're still phenomenal result. Is there anything that you do differently if you could do it again? Do you think?
Well, quite frankly, I was debating whether to go for the tire change in the pit stop or not, but looks like it was the right call considering how squirrely I was in the second stint. And maybe next time I'm going to try to get past a bit more slower cars a bit faster. Though Nurburgring is a hard track to get past on, and quite frankly, there is no, even if you're a pit stop down, there is no obligation or even etiquette to just let a faster car by. So that's all on me. I'm supposed to be making a pass. If not, well, that's what I get.
Yeah, we saw you getting stuck a little bit behind. I think it was Steve Parker in the Ferrari for a while, and obviously the move eventually happened. But by that point, you were under a little bit of pressure. But yeah, I think phenomenal drive. Obviously, you started on pole. It's great to finish on the podium.
Yeah.
How are you feeling for Barcelona? Are you quite confident around that track, or is that one of your weaker tracks?
Oh, that's going to be a drop round immediately. I can tell you that already.
Okay, positivity, mate. Positivity.
Yeah.
You never know. You might win.
I don't know. The preseason test was my first 10 laps on that track, so
Okay. Right.
could be good. I
Yeah.
did my personal best today here, so could be that in 2 weeks as well.
And how did you find managing the tyres throughout this race? Because obviously it wasn't extremely hot, but it was quite toasty, wasn't it? I think. And
Yeah, absolutely. 30 degrees, man. Well, 32 and dropping to 30 by the end of the race. It was. I thought at least until the first pit stop that would be great, but then had a slapper going out of turn 4.
Yeah.
2 laps before the stint was like, yep, gotta change. Better to do that than to suffer.
yeah, I think it's. We were saying at the start that I think for all three of you that are in here at the moment, I think the strategy is quite an interesting decision to make at the start, because you either need to full fuel and decide that at the start that you're going to go long and do a splash and dash, or you need to decide, at what point during the race do I do the pit stop, and if I do decide to go long, what are my tyres going to be like? Because actually, if you're battling throughout, which is probably what you've experienced a little bit, it becomes a little bit more challenging to manage the tyres towards the end of the race, where really you want to be probably quite quick, and you're more likely to be under pressure.
Yeah, honestly, I was listening into that part as well, and I resisted the temptation to go and just say that I'll be starting with half and half in the YouTube chat there, but strategy was definitely a call that I just made in the last minute or so, because quite frankly, it is a tough position to be in.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, thank you everyone for joining and coming for an interview, and best of luck with practice and the Barcelona race for you guys when you come around to doing it. And congrats on finishing where you finished.
Thank you as well.
Thank
Great
you.
for everyone.
Cool. Cheers all.
Sure. Good night.
Cheers.
All right, thank you to everyone that's joined on YouTube, and thank you to everyone that's been commentating, supporting the drivers, and continues to support SSRI. And have a good rest of your evening.